If you've been keeping up with E3, then I'm sure you will have seen the incredible gameplay trailer that opened Sony's press conference, Naughty Dog's latest jewel, The Last of Us Part 2. And although it was only just over 10 minutes long, there is plenty to talk about. So let's run through the trailer and see what we can find.
Went out one night to make a little round. I met little Sadie and I shot her down. Went back home, jumped into bed, 44 pistol under my head.
We start off in a hall of some kind, perhaps a church. Everyone's dancing, having a good time, and for those that are curious, the music playing in the background is Little Sadie by Crooked Still.
Jensen gamers standing around, taking little Sadie to bed. I began to think we do that down. I grabbed my hand and I moved right. Made a plunge, I was going too slow. They overtook me in Jericho.
I hate these things.
Tell me about it.
Your old man really laid into me today.
By old man, we can assume he means Joel, which means that Joel is in fact alive despite fan theories upon the game's initial announcement. Or at least he is at this point in the game.
What happened?
Another big lecture about my patrols. Don't go here, don't go there. It's funny how involved it gets whenever you're scheduled to go out.
Yeah.
The way that Ellie reacts here suggests that Joel is an overbearing father figure, or perhaps she still begrudges him for saving her at the end of the first game. Or maybe for reasons far more recent that aren't known to us yet.
She's putting on quite the show.
I give you guys 2 weeks until you're back together.
Not gonna happen. She, say something to you?
Make it 1 week.
Ellie! Hey! What took you so long?
Well, I'm here, aren't I?
Dina?
Jesse.
Hey, don't forget we leave at first light, so get some rest.
Yes, sir.
Here we have the introduction of Dina, played by Shannon Woodward, who you may recognize from her role in Westworld.
Okay, I have a very serious question for you. How bad do I smell?
Like a hot pile of garbage.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
How about that?
Gross. You love it. Every guy in this room is staring at you right now. Maybe they're staring at you. Or not. Maybe they're jealous of you. I'm just a girl, not a threat.
Oh, Ellie. I think they should be terrified of you.
Oh, not yet. Let's rewind for a second. I just wanted to make sure that we all got to see this beautiful moment without interruption. The acting and facial animations on display in this scene are utterly captivating. The attention to detail is nothing short of a marvel. For example, when Dina rubs up against Ellie's cheek, you see the remnants of sweat glisten in the light on Ellie's face. I don't mean to be a perv, but let's analyse the kiss. And no, I don't mean their technique, although they both seem to be enjoying it. Quite a bit, might I add. So I think they both know what they're doing. No, what I want to talk about is that it doesn't look strange, which seems like a strange thing in itself to bring up, but think about any time that two characters in a game kiss. For whatever reason, it always manages to look like feeding time at the zoo, but here it looks like skin touching skin. Even Ellie's nose squishes when it pushes up against Dina's face. The fact that many people may not notice this is a testament to Naughty Dog's animating prowess. They put you in a moment and they keep you there as long as they need to. Then we transition from this moment of love to one of grotesque brutality. And within this moment, if we look past the ultra-violence, you'll see that Ellie's hand is actually pressing into this man's face, rather than just hovering on the surface like most games would do. However, a more interesting detail in this moment is the bracelet that Ellie is wearing. It looks to be the same one found on Dina in the prior scene. Perhaps Dina is in some kind of trouble. We then see the knife that Ellie uses, and it's a flip knife. I think it would be safe to assume that it's the same one. We also get our first look at the heads-up display, and it's very minimalistic.
Shit.
This may be a very minor detail and may not even be worth pointing out, but whilst pressed up against the log, not only do we see the cover system return, which I assume will work in a way that's familiar to the first, but we also see the vegetation on this log and the surrounding trees, and I've gotta say, it's pretty impressive. In other games, details like moss would be detailed using displacement maps. These create the illusion of depth within a 2D image, applied to the log's texture, or on an amoeba-like shape that sits on top of the log. But here, everything is sticking out from it, most likely with the use of transparency maps, which can require more effort than the previous methods. Again, a very minor and inconsequential detail, but a detail nonetheless. As Ellie moves into the bush, notice how the circle within the HUD shrinks. This is most likely used as a stealth indicator, letting you know how visible you are to enemies in the surrounding area. As Ellie moves past this car and towards the fallen tree, turn your attention to the ground. The water is actually streaming through the grooves in the mud. As Ellie approaches the commotion, we see that you now have the ability to lie on your belly, or go prone if you will. Whilst in this state, your visibility is reduced further. This scene seems to be a ritual of some kind, and it looks to be the same ritual that we saw interrupted in the Paris Games Week trailer last year. The executioner says, "They are nested with sin. Free them that they may feel my love." I'm a little unsure on the love part as I can't hear it all that well over the man's screams, which may just be some sick form of intentional irony. The idea of sacrifices will come into play a little later in the demo. Also, notice that the men and the women of this cult all have matching hairstyles. The men are bald and the women have a sort of crown hairstyle, giving them a kind of angelic appearance. Once the ritual is completed, we hear whistling in the distance, and now the cultists are on high alert. It's likely that a patrol found the body of the man Ellie killed at the beginning of the sequence. The group seems to have different whistles for different situations, as we see these two whistle earlier, but no panic comes of it.
Spread out.
Here we get a look at the weapon and item quick select menu. It's very similar to the design in the first game, with a few minor changes. However, this time there are two pointing arrows at either end of the arrow icon, suggesting that different arrow types come into play. There's also a new crosshair for the bow, and it's quite different to any that I've seen before. As Ellie draws the bowstring, the two corners edge closer to the dot, and the arrow at the bottom of the crosshair sinks as it gets thinner, signifying the power of the shot. This enemy dies in one shot, but I can't tell if it's because Ellie remains unnoticed or because she fired the arrow at full power. Maybe it's a mixture of both. This icon indicates some kind of crafting material, which we will see again a little later. Who is this dead man on the floor, or rather which group does he belong to? We can tell that he's been dead for some time, and that he's not a cultist, and that the cultist hasn't killed him by the way that he kicks him to check if he's dead, and also by the clothes that he's wearing. After Ellie is spotted, the woman cries wolf. Pun intended, but also unavoidable. Is she referring to Ellie, or does she address all of her enemies in this way? Dialogue from nearer the end of the demo may help to shed some light on the situation. Also, notice how the threat indicator in the bottom right is now pulsating. Here we get our first look at the new and updated dodging mechanic. There even seems to be animations for when you dodge into a wall or an object, as illustrated by this car here. Ellie then performs a brutal finishing move and takes the hammer to fill her melee weapon slot. This also leaves her open to other attacks. Oh, and she leaves the hammer in this guy's face. She then replaces it with a machete using a pickup animation that looks to be using some kind of targeted animation, and no, I don't think that's a technical term for it, but Ellie actually grabs it, rather than it just appearing in her hand after an animation. Seeing Ellie sprint shows just how much faster and more agile she is than the lumbering Joel that we are used to. These next few moments showcase the AI.
She went into the grass. Watch yourself. Ethan.
What?
Wolf. She came through here. Damn it. Double back. Go.
By calling Ellie's last known position, it shows how the AI communicates with each other. They'll even check under cars if they've been alerted, and they may even drag you out from under them. When Ellie is hit by this arrow, an icon appears in the bottom right. I expect it means that we won't be able to heal until we remove the arrow. Just a cool tidbit to add, this arrow that flies by Ellie here only seems to miss her because she slows down to throw the bottle. What a happy accident. When Ellie takes this woman hostage, the archer shoots her anyway. Could be an accident, or it could just be down to ruthlessness. Either way, it creates great gameplay opportunities. Now that Ellie has a moment to breathe, although it's a short one, she removes the arrow and the icon disappears. It seems that the AI preps for attacks as they look around corners. This is most likely just for show, but it's a cool detail nonetheless. Ellie's superior agility on display again as she manages to squeeze through this gap, preventing her from being boxed in. This brief interaction shows that enemies communicate and are able to change each other's states. The enemy that just entered goes from rushing to slowly searching, and all of this can happen without the player even noticing. Now we get our first look at the crafting UI. It looks like we need scrap and materials to craft. We can see that the usual medkit, molotov and smoke bomb are in this menu. There's also a pipe icon, probably for the intention of adding a shank to the end of it, a silencer icon, and the explosive arrow type icon. Turns out, the material that was collected earlier is used to create them, most likely some kind of ignition powder, in conjunction with a regular arrow. An explosive arrow is then crafted. And it's quite effective. The explosive arrow stuns enemies in the surrounding area, allowing Ellie to hand out a killing blow. There seems to be objects in the environment that enemies can incorporate into combat, although I'm not sure if this is just a scripted event. It looks like the dodge mechanic can also be used outside of more intimate combat encounters, as illustrated by this sweet dodge. Big boys deal big damage. Before the big boy dies, he says one of two things. The first is what I think he says. Noah is the sacrificed lamb, for he, and then he gets cut off. Or according to the video's subtitles, he says, "You know this is sacrificed land." I would usually go with the subtitles if it weren't for the fact that his mouth moves in accordance with the am syllable. And also that Ellie is referred to as the wolf. If it's the former option, then the duality between the lamb and the wolf exists, meaning that maybe Ellie is after someone that's being prepped for sacrifice. The wolf seeks to take the lamb. If it's the latter option, then he may just be gloating that his cult will find her no matter what, and it also gives us an indication to the name of the cult, the Sacrifice. However, I prefer the former.
Noah is the sacrificed lamb.
Then we transition back to our moment of peace to end the demo. And that concludes the analysis, boys and girls. Thanks for watching. Please don't hesitate to let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Love you loads, and I'll see ya in the next one.